Alrighty guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of The Farmer Was Replaced with Lone Debater 7, and today we are going to be taking a look at kind of optimizing how our programs are executing. So it was pointed out in a comment that this swap over while trying to plant carrots back over to this, and then also kind of doing pumpkins. We have that issue with all of these carrots and pumpkins that take prerequisite resources as far as cost is concerned, that it will start planting midway through instead of finishing the field, which is not very efficient. So I kind of want to fix that. And I think the best way that I have come up with, or kind of have determined I want to use, is by building more or less a checker that is going to look at what price or what it costs to plant each tile in the field, and then determine the price to plant the entire field. If we have that amount, then it'll plant the entire field. If we don't, then it will run the requisite resource. So it'll run our tree bee program over here. So that'll work for carrots. Carrots are easier. For pumpkins, it's a little bit difficult or a little bit more challenging just because there is I'll have to look and see if there's a rate at which the pumpkins are supposed to fail to grow. And then we can maybe use some math to calculate what scalar ratio we should multiply our cost by. But okay, we're going to build a program. We're going to define a function, and then basically, instead of using this check right here for if our number items hay or wood is less than or equal to our carrots, then you're going to change over. We're just going to have it finish the field if it has enough to plant the whole field. So that should be pretty easy. We're going to do it by creating a function. So I've got a fresh window down here. It's related to cost. So I'm just going to call it cost for the window. Then we're going to define the function checker, and it is going to require a single variable, which is basically going to pass in the item entity that we are going to check the price for. So what do I want to call that variable? I don't know. Item. I don't really want to do that because there's items as a named thing, so I can't really use entities either. I could call it price. Let's call it price. Well, sure. We'll call it price for now. So, what is this guy gonna do? Basically, what we want to do is get cost for our price variable, and then return that as a variable. So that's going to be, I think I need to put a variable here. So I'm going to name that variable A, just because it doesn't really matter what it's called. And yeah, can't be bothered. Return A. Okay. Now, if I am doing this right, which I think I am, what I can do here, and we can just test this. I'm going to build a little window here just so we can test. I need to import in our cost. And then I want to call checker, or whoops, I need to call cost.checker and pass it in items dot carrot. Right? I'm pretty sure that's how cost works. Get cost of a thing. Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think it's entities, I think it's this. And I want to print this. See what that does. Error. Okay, it can't be items, so maybe it's entities. Okay, yeah, so it's entities. So this basically works. That's easy enough. So let me try something else just because I want to make sure I am understanding the variables correctly. So if I create a variable A, set it equal to, or well, it's going to be a list, so it needs to be a list. Define it as an empty list. Then I can say A equals this. And then if I say print A, let's see if that does the same thing. Same result? Yes, same result. So, okay, basically what we need to do after that is we need to parse that back into a list, and then we need to filter that list back. Is that coming as a list or a dictionary? It's a dictionary. Okay, so it's curlies. That's fine. So we need to basically parse through that list. So if A is the list, that's what we're going to have to run a for loop on. For item in A. What variable do I want here? Or I need to define the storage for those two. So it's going to be. I think that's going to split it into individuals. So like items, I can't use that. So like maybe resources as a list will work. And then I want to basically go resources dot item equals a dot item. And I believe that will fill the list. And then if I print resources, oh, it's not a dot. That's my problem. Okay. So it should be. I think it should be this. Items.hey can't be used as an index. Okay. So basically what I'm trying to figure out how to do here, right? Just to explain what the problem is that we're experiencing. I'm able to, when I run this for loop, I'm getting the item name, which is not going to be that's not an index inside of the list. So I'm trying to figure out how I index through this list, or dictionary, whatever. It's fine. It's returning a tuple is what it's doing. So like, all I really need out of this is the number on the get cost, right? So like, if I just hashtag these to notate them out for a moment. Right? So all I really care about is this number here, 32. That's what I care about. And the reason why I care about that number is because that's the multiplier that I need to utilize. So it's not that I need to store this in a list. I basically need to unpack what this value is. So A equals a dictionary like this. If I do B equals A items dot hey, and then print B, will that return the value? Yes, it will. Okay, so if I wanted to return the values of this list, right? Basically what I need to do to automate this for any number of requisite resources, right? I run populate list A with our cost checker function, which just goes through, returns our dictionary list of what items are correspondent to how many of each item do we need. Okay, easy enough. Then what you do from there is you run a for loop to basically access this entry one at a time. So like you basically say, or well, actually, no, you don't need a for loop for that. Then you run a if-then statement. So it's basically going to look like we need those variables. I don't actually need this, and I can actually define this down lower. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So we cost check. We know that this is for carrots, but it can be for anything, right? So B is going to be hey. So if actually, let's just do it this way. So I think it's going to be the same value for all the resources in all cases. At least it is for carrots. I'll have to check that on pumpkins. So we know the value of B. All I really need to do is return B instead of return A. Oh, whoops. I do need to return A here. That's the wrong spot. So if I was to take this and try to convert it into something else, basically what I'm doing up here is I run the function. Then I put that function's result into a variable to parse this out. Then it's going to be like double world size times tile or well, it's the tiles on the map times B. And that is how much of the requisite resource we need, right? Because that's the cost of each plant times the number of tiles on the farm. Carrots don't have a chance to fail to grow, so that should be sufficient for them. So let's go ahead and implement this into our carrots. It'll optimize it slightly. So what I'm going to do here is just comment this portion out, and we're going to replace it with something different. That way, if it doesn't work, we don't lose stuff, if that makes sense. I think I also need this watering out of there. Okay, so this is to be a fresh if statement, and we're going to say if our num items dot hey is greater than equal to. So I guess we could run the cost at the start here. Maybe makes sense. So like, let's import cost. We're going to go define a variable. And like, I suppose this variable, I'm trying to decide if I want to do this inside the while loop or outside the while loop, because the cost is going to be fixed when you start planting the field. So I almost think it makes more sense to do it outside the while loop. So I'm going to do that instead. So import cost, we got num item carrot. We're going to just call this price is what we're going to call this. So the price, or well, price should be the second variable actually for it to make more sense, because the price is 32, right? So we will go check or cost check, or just check. We'll call it check. And that's going to be an empty list. Then we're going to go price. And that can just be, actually I can initialize that down lower. It doesn't matter. That should be fine. So what are we going to do here? We're going to run our function. So we're going to say that check is equal to cost dot checker. And then we are going to pass in, since this is carrots, entities dot root. Boom. Then after that, we're going to say price as a variable equals our check items dot hey. And I can do it this way. Like I could technically automate that further and have it check the price for each individual item, which we might have to do on future crops. We don't have to do it for carrots, so I'm not going to. Since this one utilizes hay, I know I have to check hay. I could do that for each of the other crops as well because I know what requisite crop it takes to plant it, right? So there's that. Okay. So now we've got price equals our items hay. Perfect. Now all we got to do is get the world size. So we have tiles inside of here. So this we can do inside of the loop. So we've got our price. Let's go down here. I want to make a new variable inside the loop just so it gets populated every time. And then that is going to be required. Yeah, required equals price times our tiles. Okay, and then now what I can do is come down here and say required and items dot wood. Then actually, I mean, most of this is fine to stay. I can just remove this. Well, yeah, that's fine. I don't care. It's gone. It's gone. All right. No, just kidding. Let's go ahead and see if this works. Fire her up. Well, it's doing pumpkins right now. Yeah, that's annoying. This should work. I think this will work. Let's just let it plant this. I kind of want to test and make sure. But yeah, not too bad. If this does work, we've got that automated. We do need to do basically the same thing for our pumpkins program because pumpkins also have a price. I kind of want to test the price of pumpkins first. So if I change this to pumpkin, I believe pumpkins cost carrots. So that's the one we want to check. Now, pumpkins are a little more complicated too because you have this perish rate, right? So if I click on this, see pumpkins, 20% chance. So the yield is this. The question I have actually, what does measure on this return? So I'm just going to manually move here for a second. So east, then south. So if I do that, now I want you to print none. Oh, it's maybe not measure. It's get entity. Pumpkin's dead. Okay, so if I plant a entity dot pumpkin. Then run this same command while it's growing. I'm trying to see, does it tell you it's dead while it's growing? I kind of just want to know that. Okay, it kind of looks like it might. So let me move over to a different one and just test that again. I'll move this over here for a second. Movies. I know I'm printing when I don't need to. South. All right, now we're over that. Can comment that. Dead pumpkin, plant. It's a real pumpkin. Okay, so it looks like this might work, actually. I kind of need to test it in the state where the pumpkin dies while it's growing and see if it measures as a real pumpkin until it perishes. You know what I mean? Like, if it already knows, then we might be okay. And I'm only doing this because if you can tell that a pumpkin's going to die before it actually finishes the growth cycle, then you can basically just fertilize like you just stay there. And if it's going to grow into a dead pumpkin, you don't leave the tile and you just plant the tile again. So I don't know if you can actually do that or not. Okay, well, we're unlucky. That's fine. I'll explore that on my own. Sorry, guys. Kind of got distracted. But yes. What was I looking for? I need to delete this out. What does pumpkins cost? 16. And if I just wanted to print the list, it is just carrots for those, correct? Yes, it is. So basically the same thing works here for our pumpkins. We just are going, so I can honestly copy these. Actually, I know technically these are all variable definitions, but I'm going to throw the import in together because this all kind of works in the same thing, if that makes sense. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to just go ahead and update our pumpkin program now because we can validate that this will work for us by doing so. Come on, stop snapping. Let me put it where I want. I like the chaos, please. Okay, so like this one, we want to put this outside of the while loop. Import cost, entities, pumpkin instead of carrot. Items carrot instead, that's price. Then inside of here, I need required equals price times. So if 20% of them are going to perish, right? Like that's the percentage chance. If we take the price times the size, that's the number of tiles. Really, we should take the number of tiles and modify it by at least 20%. If you gave it a scalar of 30%, it'll make sure you have more than enough. And you could really increase that buffer further and put it at like 50%. So like, you basically take the number of tiles, which is going to be our double world size in this case. So DWS, which we have a variable for, and we're going to multiply that times 1.5 to give us a 50% scalar on the number of tiles. So number of tiles times 1.5 times the price, that's the required amount of carrots. So instead of this, we put in required there's that. I think that's that's the only spot, right? No, I need to put it in here too. throw in the colon. Okay, that should be this one fixed too. So let's just make sure. Yep, works. I mean, also we have more than enough carrots, so nothing to sweat about, but I think our carrot one will work too. We'll just make sure, let it run for a moment. I'm just going to delete that out because I don't necessarily need that. I was just utilizing it for some testing. That's definitely something you can do in this game. It's pretty easy to just test something. So there's that. It's going to go for our carrots. We won't run out of hay on this field, but it appears that this is working, right? Like if our parsing up here was not working, we would have ran into an error when it performed this check right here. So the fact that it's performing this check, we're good. We should be okay. I'd have to run down my resources quite a bit before we'd like enter into a low volume scenario. So there's that. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and call it here for today. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to comment, subscribe, and like as always. I do read through the comments, and I do like hearing from you guys on what you do. Let me know if you found learning how to utilize this cost function to improve our efficiency was interesting to you, and if you might be able to utilize that to improve some of your own programs. I think what we're going to do next time is we're going to look at building out the program for Cactus. I want to go ahead and keep progressing through the tree, so that's our next step. Anyway, guys, until next time, this has been Lone Debater 7, and we will see ya.